right now. Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome inside the Fan Cave. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Bob Pompeani here in studio. Andrew Fillipponi up at 93.7 The Fan. Hit us up on the hotline. You see 412-575-2600 or at KD Pomp at the Pony Express. And what a way to start the season. I don't think many people saw this many points happening, not just in this game, the Steelers and Jets, but all around the league. 34-32, the most points the Steelers have scored in an opener since I think 2016 when they got 38 against Washington early in a game, first week of the season. So, I mean, you don't see this kind of stuff, but you also don't see a quarterback who's had the kind of Hall of Fame career that Aaron Rodgers has. He was the big difference. I know there were things, Andrew, that the Steelers have certainly got to turn around and get better on, but with him at quarterback, at least yesterday, he was in control, and 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, and Pro Football Focus said he was one of the 5 worst quarterbacks in the NFL yesterday. They might need to shut down.
What do they use as their metric system? How do they do it other than watching a guy play? And everyone around the league that I saw today, was effusive with their praise.
They gave him the same grade as Broderick Jones, Bob. I mean, just ridiculous that that's where they go with things. Apparently, they've now turned into an organization that just does things for clicks and things like that, because there's no way anybody that watched the game and watched it critically, objectively knows that Aaron Rodgers was the best, the MVP of the game as far as non-special teamers go, with the way he performed. Was sacked a lot, was pressured a lot, was hit a lot. And he kept getting up and he kept making plays. He was not deterred by the Jets' defense and by his lack of protection. He continued to go downfield. He didn't give up on plays by just throwing the ball away. He wasn't resigned to just check the ball down. And I thought that was a huge part of his game yesterday. He was out for blood. We know how he feels about that Jet organization. Has a very low opinion of them. Not a huge fan of the head coach over there. And he wanted to stick it to them, and he was able to do that from the first possession, a touchdown. We haven't seen that in a very long time. Didn't see it at all last year. To the very last Steelers possession where he orchestrated a 2-minute drill drive to get them that Chris Boswell field goal.
And you can tell, Andrew, that he is the consummate professional, because he mentioned nothing about this, even though he was asked repeatedly before the game about Aaron Glenn, about his departure. He stayed away from it. After the game, he made sure everyone knew that that was a motivational thing for him. You can see our Penn West University question of the night at kdk.com/connect. Which quarterback played better, Aaron Rodgers, Justin Fields? Aaron Rodgers is my check mark there, even though I thought both quarterbacks played well, which leads us to problems. The Steelers knew going into that game that the Jets are going to run the football. That's their bread and butter. They really, other than Garrett Wilson, they don't have all that many, targets down the field. And yet they were able to dictate terms to the tune of 182 yards. This is something that's a continuation of what we've seen last year, last 5 games of the season, when they just couldn't stop anyone, including the Baltimore Ravens. So how do you fix it? You can tell me that, you're going to get Harmon back as the rookie, but I wouldn't put that much on his plate. Is he capable of turning it around? It's got to be deeper than that, right?
Yeah. I mean, Keanu Benton is in his 3rd year. He's going backwards, in my opinion. He's in reverse right now. I thought he had a very poor game. I'm going to give Cam Hayward a little bit of an excuse. I don't think his head was right yesterday. He spent a lot of time getting ready for football physically, but I think mentally he was checked out because so much of his attention and energy went to his contract dispute. And up until Saturday night, he didn't know what was going to happen. So I don't think his mind was entirely on football. I think now that that's over and done with, I think the farther and farther that gets in the rearview mirror, the better he should play. Peyton Wilson, Chris Hoke called him out by name on the Extra Point show. He's a guy that can go sideline to sideline, but he's not a physical inside linebacker. And the Jets, given what they do, they were able to exploit that. We'll see what happens on Sunday. That it might call for more Cole Holcomb, Bob, who barely played in this game.
Right.
He's a guy that 2 years ago was signed as a free agent to be a starting inside linebacker, not a reserve. And if Deshaun Elliott's out, that's also, I think, a loss in the run defense game. He's one of the best safeties in the NFL at coming down and playing the run. And Chuck Clark had a lot of tackles in the game against the Jets, but don't confuse that with making big plays because he was the last line of defense, and once running backs got by linebackers and defensive linemen, he was there to clean up the play.
I always get skeptical when I see that your safeties are your leading tacklers because it normally means that things aren't happening in a good way, that you, as you said, the last line of defense. He made plays, but he didn't make big plays. They were coming to him after they went through the first two layers. We got to take a break. We'll talk about the Steelers' next opponent, Seattle. We want to hear your calls, too. Call us at 412-575-2600. We're just getting started. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Well, 7 nights a week right here on KDKA+. All right, welcome back. This is our Xfinity tweet of the night. It comes from Pro Football Focus, and this is something we probably agree on. Good grades all the way through for Jalen Ramsey, including, 6 receiving yards allowed, 2 broken up potential pass completions. He was everywhere, including the final hit of the game, Andrew, and I thought that play kind of summed up the way the Steelers would like to play. They didn't necessarily until the end when they had to. But that hit on Garrett Wilson denied them of a first down. And even though time was clicking away, you never know what could happen after that. And they may have got a shot at a field goal had that worked to their advantage.
Yeah, the defense at least finished on a high note. They got a punt the possession before that stop by Ramsey. So their last 2 possessions, they made plays to win the game. They made winning plays. Even that last touchdown drive for the Jets, they got the stop on the 2-point conversion. So if I'm Mike Tomlin, yeah, the vast majority of the game was ugly and frankly unacceptable given how much they have invested in the defense. In the big game, they've talked as a defense as to what their expectations are this year to be historic. But at least you have something you can carry into this game. And, it wasn't a matter of, hey, the Steelers had the ball last and that's why they won. No, the Jets got the ball back and their defense, led by Jalen Ramsey, came through in the end. And I do think that that's something that they can build upon and, look at, hey, it wasn't all a disaster in this game. For 55 minutes it pretty much was, but the last 5 minutes we did turn it around.
All right, let's go to the hotline and our number 1 Cochrane Go One Better caller of the night. We begin with Lou in Baldwin. Hello, Lou. Welcome to the show.
Yes, sir. I got a comment on T.J. Watt. The man makes $1 million a quarter. Do you really think he's worth all that? And also,
yes.
If he gets hurt, does he still make that amount of money?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, he was active in the run game. He had a couple of tackles for losses, a big hit on Justin Fields, but he really didn't have all that many opportunities. Now, the one thing I will say is going up against, and they moved him around a little bit, Andrew, but he had a rookie right tackle over there who played very well. But I think as time goes on, you'll see more of an impact from T.J. Watt. Yesterday was, I think, part of the problem was they were running the ball so effectively, it kind of took those edge rushers out of the game when it came to sacks.
And most runs were to the left side, which makes sense not only because it's the opposite of Watt, but that is where the Jets had their offensive line was still intact with Fashanu from Penn State, and the left guard was a holdover, Simpson. I think I would have played Watt on the left side more than they did in this game. And then, okay, if we're going to do that, well, then we're going to force you to run it behind your backup in a rookie to the right side. And we'll have Alex Highsmith over there who typically plays the run pretty well. So I would have even flipped it more than Mike Tomlin did in this game. And they should have, from this perspective, Bob, when you're not getting stops and you're giving up touchdowns and field goals on every drive, what do you have to lose?
Yeah.
Doing it that way.
Show them
it's
different. Not
like it's one of those it ain't broke, so don't try to fix it situations. You were getting gashed pretty much the entire way. So I would have done that even more than the Steelers did in this game.
I think you may see that as time goes on. Let's go to Bruce in Uniontown, who joins us on line 2 tonight. Hello, Bruce.
Hey, Bob. Hey, Tony. Hey, I just want to tell you real quick, it was a very interesting game. I was at my sister's in Uniontown a couple of years ago. I called you guys, and I wore that number 50 jersey, and my sister made me take it off at the end of the third quarter, go out to my truck, and I had to change my shirt in the middle of the street. And I come back. It was a very interesting game on that fourth quarter. So I just thought that was pretty interesting. I talked to you a couple years ago, but it was really an enlightenment to see them move the ball the way they did, The defense was a little soft there at first, but I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah, if they score a lot of points, thanks, Bruce. And that was a little TMI for me about what was going on with the clothing department there. But if they score the way, and they're not going to score 34 in the 30s every game, but it's certainly, if you look at their last 5 games last year, they didn't score more than 17 points in any one of those games. And that's a problem. It makes your defense even more difficult, to live up to, because you got to stop. There's no margin for error. Your offense can camouflage some of the problems, and I think that's what we saw yesterday. That doesn't mean they can't, that they won't be fixed or shouldn't be fixed. They should be fixed, but the offense can, certainly cover up.
I thought that a coaching change was going to make the Jets' defense better, because Aaron Glenn, that's his MO. But one game into his regime, it's the same Jets defense we saw last year. What's crazy about this game is that they scored 34, and rightfully so. We're very excited about how Aaron Rodgers looked. Bob, how we forget, last year against the Jets, guess how many points they scored? 37.
Yeah, they did.
And that was in Russell Wilson's debut. So it was the same thing. His first game was against the Jets, and he almost scored 40.
Yeah.
So if you're a Hall of Fame quarterback, it pays to play the Jets in your first game. Now, I thought Aaron Rodgers' first game looked better than Russell Wilson's, but I do think we have to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, because for whatever reason, even though the Jets have some big-time players on defense, they just have, like the Steelers' defense, they've really underachieved lately. And give Arthur Smith and Aaron Rodgers credit for being able to take advantage of that.
Yeah, they are. And, you look at the schedule, Andrew, and it sets up very nicely. I think we all suspected that it may be like this. Seattle did not look good last week. Sam Darnold, although all he did was look at Jackson Smith and Jigba, he had 9 of, I think, the receptions, and there weren't many of them. The run game did not produce. And then after that, you have New England, which struggled yesterday against the Raiders. And then Minnesota, we're watching them tonight. We got a couple of tweets about that, saying that these quarterbacks, it may work in the Steelers' advantage. I would caution you, because it's early in the season. That all could change. But we get this, too, from Ryan Zedek on Twitter. He says the Steelers shouldn't fool around too much with Broderick Jones when they have 3-time Pro Bowl offensive tackle Andrus Peat in reserve. I don't think he even dressed yesterday.
No.
First of all, I'm not giving up on Jones too soon. I realize he is underachieved, making from right to left, and it was worse at left, and that's a position that you would expect him to be better at. Man, yesterday, 3 sacks, 4 pressures allowed. That's one of the worst stat lines you're going to have.
Yeah, and I thought he looked considerably better than that in the preseason, which again goes to show you, Bob, I hate to say this because you do such a great job on those games. We get fooled a lot by what happens there.
Sure.
And we obviously did it with Kenny Pickett and that offense when they were perfect in the preseason. I certainly did a few years ago, probably more than anybody else. But it was a horrible first impression in the 2025 season for Broderick Jones. And they do have a backup plan. Pete has primarily been a guard, but he played tackle in the preseason. So we know that they're looking at him there as an insurance policy. Aaron Rodgers can still throw it. Bob, he's not very mobile.
We saw that. Yeah.
I'm afraid that this is going to be an ongoing problem. Seattle did lose to San Francisco, and their offense was not that impressive in this game. Their defensive line did do a very good job against San Francisco, to the point where Trent Williams, one of the great left tackles in football, was abused by Mafi, is the guy's last name. Well, I think he's a second-year player or third-year player, who completely dominated him in that game. Plus, they have Leonard Williams up the middle, and they've got DeMarcus Lawrence from the Cowboys on the other end. So it doesn't get any easier for the Steelers in terms of the trenches in this game against Seattle. And if you believe that's where games are won, well, offensive line versus defensive line of the Seahawks will be another test for the Steelers on Sunday.
No question about that, and pressure will come. And they may blitz. They did a little bit of that, too, so you never know what you're going to get. But Aaron Rodgers is going to have to get the ball out quickly. Let's get to another call before we go to break. Keith in Dormont, you're up next right now. Go ahead, Keith.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Bob and Pony, I got a quick question to ask you guys. You're on point with everything you were saying tonight. Really enjoyed the show.
Thanks.
Wanted to ask you about the preseason, as far as they cut that down. You only get like 3 instead of 4 preseason games. And going into the regular season, it seems like that's when they actually get their practice time and to get some hitting time. So I was wondering if, as you mentioned earlier in your show a couple weeks back, that they need more people to come in preseason, at least the first string, play a little more, get acclimated into the swing of things.
Keith, it depends on who you are. I mean, Aaron Rodgers didn't need it, and we thought maybe he should get a little taste of it. He didn't need it, and it clearly was evidence yesterday. I think if you look at J.J. McCarthy tonight, maybe he needed more, because this is really his first rodeo as a starting quarterback, as he was out all of last year. They use those joint practices, Andrew, and I guess that's going to maybe be the wave of the future in terms of preparation for the regular season.
You know, usually defenses are ahead of offenses, and outside at the beginning of the season, and really outside of 2 games, Bills, Ravens, and Steelers, Jets, most games were dominated by defense, or at least games where if you got to 20 or more points, you felt like you were going to win. And this was shockingly the one game everybody thought was a race to 17 points, Bob, and the winning team needed to score at least 33.
We got to take a break. We'll come back with more right here. It's the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call, 7 nights a week on KDKA+. All right, welcome back. We continue right here with the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Andrew, let's talk about the special teams, because we didn't give them enough justice here because of what they did yesterday. It's amazing how these kickers have gotten better and better, and the lengths of these field goals gets longer and longer. If you saw the video that Ian Smith, our photographer, shot yesterday at MetLife Stadium, from his angle, you can see that kick would have been good from 70-plus yards. I mean, it was that good and that crisp. From the end zone view, it looked like, okay, room to spare, but the other view shows you how deep it was beyond the goalpost.
Well, and that's why if you're any team that's game planning against the Steelers now, you've got to practice making sure the ball isn't a touchback and you force the Steelers to return it, because if you just give them the ball at the 35, really all they need are 2 first downs to be in field goal range with how automatic Boswell is from deep, and that gives them a leg up, Bob, pun intended, on a lot of the teams they're playing against.
And there's no question that's part of the strategy now, and this whole dynamic kickoff thing is working.
And Bob, you look so dapper tonight. I got ripped on the on the showdown for looking like an Olive Garden waiter. You look great.
All right. Pony, thanks very much. Appreciate that. Have a good night, everyone. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 10:35. Good night.